Hi, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video or podcast on your favorite platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms. If you go to miamighostchronicles.com, you can find links to the videos or MP3 files, which you can download and enjoy without commercial interruptions. If you're into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If scary stories are your bag, and listening to encounters with cryptids, ghosts, dogmen, and other weird creatures sends a shiver up your spine, then go to supernaturalstorytime.com for links to our weekly podcasts. Noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird can be found at eerie.news or visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at miamighostchronicles.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. Just go to mppellicer.com for a link. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good, I hope. Everything is good over here. Even though it might be a couple of weeks because this show is staggered, but we're still in the middle of the summer. North Florida, I'm going to say, it's part of me is thinking that, it's never, like when it's really hot, you're like, man, I can't wait for it to get cold. And when it gets really cold, it's like, man, this is too cold. But anyway, and I've said this in previous shows, the Halloween stuff is out. Even though it's baking outside, they've got Halloween stuff up everywhere. And to me, it's like, okay, I'm sorry, but to me, Halloween belongs in the autumn, not in August. So yeah, as you can tell, those wheels of commercialism are trying to drive us in that direction. And it's like, there was a time, what was it? The season. It's you wanted to go outside at the appropriate, it was like there was a rhythm to it. How's that? And guess what? Not anymore. So, but anyway, outside of that, everything is good. All my chickens and all my guineas and all my little doodads running around, we're all good. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to probably, if I do get any other chicks or poultry or anything, I'm not letting anybody that's laying hatch anything because I don't want to get, it's too much. Let me tell you something. I keep my poultry there. They've got a lot of they're free range, but I've got water all over the place. And there's a lot of shade for them. And even then you could tell they're like, you see them with their wings out like that. And it's like, sorry, I can't do anything about that. But yeah. So anyway, guys, yeah, it's either too hot or too cold. One of those things like Goldilocks kind of deal. Anyway, let's get on to the good part. The good part is who's the guest tonight at Stories of the Supernatural. This is the first time she's been here. Her name is Katrina Rasbold, and she began her study of the magical arts in 1980 in the Marianas Islands. And since then, she's worked with mentors throughout the United States and England. She's a published author and freelance journalist who distinguished herself with her no-nonsense approach and humorous homespun commentary in many different genres of reporting and commentary. Her workshops, classes, and lectures continue to charm and educate her clients and students. She's published over 40 books, including 10 that she co-wrote with her husband, Eric Rasbold. And in 2022, they retired from public retail and moved their business, Crossroads Occult, online, entirely online. She offers spiritual cleansings, reading, consultations, classes, and personalized spell work through their website, crossroadsoccult.com. And I'll have a link to that site on the credits of the show. They feature handmade magical products, including candles, bath, conjure products, sprays, and handcrafted incense, among other items. I love this part. Katrina is a mother of 6 adults who are out there loose in the world being amazing. Help me welcome her. How are you doing today, Katrina? Okay, now I can. Why did I mute you? Yes, I think I did. No, you're muted. You're muted on your end.
I said all my amazing things in that moment.
Yes, like man, I can't redo that.
Like that was the golden hour right there.
Yeah, right. Like, oops. It's like
I think I just said some platitudes about how great it is to be here.
it's
It's
like
good to see
yeah, it's like that. It's like, all right, it's
you.
Mercury retrograde. What can I say?
Right? Yeah, I'm in the middle of it too. And because I'm Virgo, we're ruled by Mercury. So it either loves us or hates us. We're either really into our I'm sorry, I swear a lot, backwards
I
stuff
go right
that's
ahead.
going on at that time, or it just like destroys us. So
Yeah, I know. I know. You know what? There was a few times that I said, "Oh, this thing about Mercury retrograde. That's I don't." I said, "God," or I forget. And let me tell you something. It goes. It's really funny, and I think it has to do also where it is. What degrees and all that. Whether you how affected you are by it. Because there's time it's minor, but there's other times that it's major stuff. Major stuff.
it's
So
got a
yeah,
feel to it. It's got
yeah.
a feel. And there's stuff that just naturally goes wrong. And you're like, oh, that's bullshit.
Right. It's gonna happen no
This
matter
that's
what.
happens, that's happened. And then there's times that you're thinking that I know this vibe. And then you go, there's
Yes.
literally a website is mercuryretrograde.com.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
no, no,
and
it's there's stuff. I mean, let me see, I've gotten lost and I've lost flights leaving. I mean, you name it. There's stuff, how they always say if you got to do something like you got to double check, triple check what you're doing. And yeah, sometimes it's been like, wow, I should have stayed home, that kind of deal.
should have stayed home, man.
Yeah. So anyway, um how did you get involved? Or it says here that you started working as far as what in the Marianas. Did you grow up
That's
there? Or
Guam. I was on
Guam.
Guam for 3 years. Yeah. That was,
Okay.
back when the earth was cooling, the dinosaurs roamed. And I had just married a military dude. And we went over there. And
Uh-huh.
it's an island that's 5 miles by 30 miles. So it's a
Oh,
tiny island.
yes.
But at the same time, the Chamorros are very, I don't want to say that they're entrenched in their culture, but it's very dear to them. They keep it
Mm-hmm.
at that time very active, and they had some pretty good mojo going on with some of the things that they did, and that kind of caught my eye. I'd always had a supernatural interest, but I was always just one of
Okay.
those people like, oh, let's read the ghost story, this is really interesting.
Right.
And so that kind of got me into the idea of the beginning of folk magic and what that's like. And from there, it was just following this Air Force guy over the world and seeing the different ways that people are connecting with spirit, depending
Mm-hmm.
on the culture, depending on the different ways that their ancestry led them to do it. And
Sure.
it was just it tore me up. It was fascinating. And here I am turning 62 next week, and it's still I can't get bored with it. And
Oh,
when I
happy
went to
birthday.
Guam, I was 16. So
There you go. Wow, my God, you were a young bride.
right, yeah, got married at 16, had a baby at
Wow.
16, and
I'm
had
telling
my
you. All
last
right.
one at almost 40, so it was a long old road there.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But yeah, it's let me ask you during this time because when you're 16, your mind sees the world differently versus now. You're more receptive, but at the same time, I want to say you can be more gullible. How's that? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's fair.
And then as you grow older, you're like, there's things that you hear that you go, that's really that's accurate, and that was BS. That was like
Yeah,
that was a lot of BS. And I've found that in a lot of these places, the folklore. I mean, they can have follow their folklore or their beliefs at the same time being modern. How's that?
absolutely. And it always is that balance. And I think the only people who are completely enmeshed in the past are the people who are the my brain is stopping, the recreationists, the ones who
Right,
are recreating places from the past, the Ren Fair people, the
right.
Civil War people. They are enmeshed in the past. I can guarantee you that my family from Appalachia, if they had had a Bic lighter, they would have used it. Okay.
Sure, of
And so
course.
the introduction of technology and new things into a growing folk magic, a lot of these, and it's usually, I'm just going to be straight out, it's usually uppity
Yeah,
white people that get this
yeah,
impression that, oh, we must keep it all old and sacred in the way that it used to be. And yes, we want to maintain the
sure.
knowledge of those practices. But at the same time, we have to grow, we have to develop, we have to attune to what's happening now, Otherwise, we are unnatural and we will
Sure.
die.
Well, you know what? I laugh because you know that there's a lot of these video games that sometimes the setting is like either, Dark Ages or one of those deals. And, some of these kids, and even though there's a lot of grown up people, but they get so enmeshed and they're like thinking, oh, if I could live back sword and stone times. And I'm like, sure. All right. The first time you're back there and, you're freezing or whatever, let's say, because it's usually, and all you've got is a little fire. And you're like, shh,
You got to poop
and
in a hole.
oh yeah, and it's like,
2 minutes.
right, and people get this idea of this of what life was like in those times, and it's like it was rough, it was brutal.
Reconstructionist, that's the word I was looking for.
Okay,
Reconstructionist. But it's true. And
yeah,
when I went to, after I left England was when I actually became involved with Wicca. And
okay,
it was so funny. I was in Southern California, in Victorville and Apple Valley area, and you've got these people that are darling, and I love them dearly. They're amazing people. Many of them are still in my life here, 40 years later.
hmm
But when they would go into ritual, all of a sudden they're picking up this affected British accent, and I'm thinking, man, you run the copier at Kinko's, Pete. You know?
Oh my God, I'm sorry, I have
And
to laugh.
no, it's true. And for me, and this is just me. Now, some people need to step into whether they're working ritual or they're doing folk magic or they're just moving energy or meditating or whatever. They need to
Right,
step into another persona. For me, it's about what am I doing magically?
right, exactly,
So I was never one of these people that had the craft name or
right.
Katrina Silversmith Wolfbang or anything like that. I was me, man. I wanted all the credit myself for what I
Let me
was
tell you
doing.
something. It's what it reminds me of. You remember when Star Wars came out, the first one that they've got Basil Rathbone who plays the bad guy, the villain. And I remember somebody saying, how come, there's a galaxy far, far away. He's got a British
A
accent,
British accent, right?
But and no, but I understand. I mean, it's one of those things, and a lot of it really has to do with intent. It doesn't matter if you have if you're
Sure.
Brit, fine, great, use your accent, but it's the I guess what maybe is it what you're trying to say is that just because you're whether it's a Brit accent or anything, it doesn't make it any more powerful. How's that? Or more
Right. Now
anything?
I can go along with the language idea. Now, when I started Wicca, we were still doing a lot of Latin
Right.
in the incantations and such. And I get that. I mean, when
Right.
you have used an incantation over centuries, there's a reason why the Lord's Prayer has tremendous power, even in
Right.
folk magic. And it's because of the repetition over and over and over and
Yes.
over and over and over. And so I get that. But I mean, I'm not here just to clown the people that do that. I mean,
Oh
God,
no, no,
God
no. I
bless
mean, it's whatever.
anybody
It's
in any way that they reach their divine selves. It doesn't mean I'm not, eating off the
yeah.
inside of my face to keep from laughing, as it's happening. But
Yeah,
no,
but it's like are you doing magic or are you LARPing? What is it?
are you impressing me or the
Right,
goddess
exactly.
or that
Yeah.
that girl over there with the corset that's making
Yeah, right.
everything
Yeah,
look good?
the exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that tight
So
bodice.
I'm fascinated by people, and this was an arena, being pagan, being a witch, now being professional witch. The people watching blows
Right.
away any mall that ever
Oh,
existed in
sure.
the United
I believe
States.
it. I believe
And
it.
the types of personalities you're going to meet, the cross sections are amazing. And I
Mhm.
think that's one, other than getting in touch with your own divine personal power, which most spiritual paths don't discuss.
Right.
um Other than that, I think just the different types of people is what's fascinated me the most.
Yeah. And I think let me ask you, how's this? Do you think that have you run across people that get into that which is whether it's Wiccan or neo-paganism that they do it how can I sell you more for show than because they really actually believe in it? You understand what I'm saying?
You know what? More before than
Okay.
now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they're still there. They're absolutely still there. And I run
Okay.
one of the big pagan festivals here on the West Coast, Pangaea. I'm the director of
Okay.
that. And so we get to see again a big cross section of people. But
Mhm.
back in the olden days,
Right.
there was a time when a lot of people were still on the edge of that. I don't want to say the crusty hippie movement or anything like that, but they
Hmm.
wanted to startle people. They wanted
Right, right.
to
That's what I'm thinking of.
get an
Yes.
effect. And so that's
Hmm.
when you got the people who had the big, Flava Flav pentacles that they're wearing and jamming into old ladies' faces in
Yeah.
Walmart and
Yeah.
are having very loud conversations about how we're doing ritual tomorrow night. And I
Right.
thought, if you were a real witch,
Right.
they would kill you for that. you
Right.
know
To be the counter. Yeah, I want to be counterculture, even though if I really don't believe
exactly.
it. This is the most I can, be. And I don't want to say offensive, but yeah, like you said, I want to see that startled look on your face, like
Right.
that kind of
And
deal.
that
So,
what that's saying is I am not significant enough in my life to have an impact on anyone else,
right.
positive or
Exactly.
negative. Therefore, I need to co-opt the most shocking things in the world I can integrate
Hmm.
into my life. And it just happened that anything witchy or gothic was shocking. So there
Right.
it went. Now, that is no disparagement to my true goth friends who are just in it to the bone,
Right.
dead to the
Right.
bone. But the ones that were just in it for show, I mean, those guys are CEOs now, and they're, uh, you know,
Yeah. It's like, let's not talk about what I used to do, what I did that, you
right,
know,
right. It
yeah,
was
when I
a
was walking around with
transition
the
for them.
eyeliner on and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was something that they did. Now, did that express something in them and maybe get out some energy that they needed to
Hmm.
push out there? Sure, it served its place, but
Yeah. Sure.
admittedly, that was never me. I was the power greedy person that was just about, oh, look, I can make this candle blow up, or
Right.
can I get my light bill paid very quickly here? So it was
Right.
all cause and effect for me. But yeah, I absolutely knew those people
Right. Like if you
back
had told
then.
them, "Hey, you can do this, but you got to keep it a secret. Nobody's can tell. You can't dress like it," and they'd be like, "No, that's no fun in that." You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it's
It's
true though.
almost
There is no fun in that.
right. No, but I'm saying that if you put that caveat on it,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
like, you know what, nobody can be able to tell by looking at you
mhm.
what you do. They'd be like, "Huh? No, no, no.
See,
You got
to
to."
me, that's the fun part. To me,
Right.
that's and I do dress the part. I'm not Lori Cabot. I'm not wearing ritual robes and makeup every single day of my life. I usually look
Hmm.
like somebody's ordinary grandma, well, somewhat ordinary grandma. Uh, but at the same time, I love to dress up. I love to put on
Right.
the robes and the smell the incense and the whole bit. I can do all that with the best of them. But yeah, some people you can tell that effect is all there is. They're
Right.
not living a lifestyle of this. They're not incorporating it to make themselves a better person. And
Sure.
really, that should be what your spirituality is about. So, is it about your spirituality, or is it about some psychological need that you're showing off, or that you're putting it in somebody's face to
Right.
create an effect? So it's
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah. Like,
I
what's
once
your agenda really about as
yeah,
far as.
exactly. And I once said that one of the greatest strengths of paganism is its inclusiveness, because it
Hmm.
will welcome anyone and everybody. And one of the greatest weaknesses of paganism is its exclusive or its inclusivity, because it will welcome anybody and everybody. You know,
Right.
so
Right.
you
Right.
really end up with, I hate to say it, some of the French people who have personality disorders
Hmm.
and
Yes.
challenges that make it difficult to create a healthy group dynamic.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's tough. When you welcome everybody, that's great. When you welcome everybody, that's a challenge. So
Well, you know what, and sometimes I'm going to say people like that will come in disguise, like disguised as a normal, and I'm going to even. I've been doing paranormal research since the 1990s, and I worked with a research foundation in Florida, which means I was always freelance. I would work with different groups, or they would call me, "Hey, we have a case down in South Florida," or whatever, or "Hey, somebody can't make it. Can you come in?" And I would fill in for them. So I was in touch with a lot of different groups, and you would every once in a while you would see these new people. They would come in, and after a while I could spot them, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a problem," because you could tell what they call paradrama,
mhm.
where they get into it, and then before you know it, it's like they're this personality that I would even now, I'll have people that group leaders that'll call me up and go, "Hey, man, I don't know what to do with this person. I don't want to take them on investigations to people's houses because holy crap, I don't know how this slipped by me. But yeah, they did. Like you said, it's one thing is to have individualism in a group,
Hmm.
but then there's others. I was like, man, you, you got to get out of here because you're, for some reason, they are just very conflictive kind of
Hmm.
personalities. And I don't know if you've come across that or if that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And in fact, in my life, I've been privileged to wear a lot of different hats. I have had fun in so many different arenas. Now, I was raised uh, Christian and
Okay.
was involved with a lot of the Pentecostal churches and
Mm-hmm.
some of the churches that will, I mean, really get down. And
Right.
in retrospect, when I'm looking back on those things, there were some people within those churches that you've got to wonder, when Sister Eileen starts speaking in tongues, is she
Right.
wanting that attention or is she genuinely having a Pentecostal moment or
Right.
what's happening there? And I'm sure that they had some of the same issues
Mm-hmm.
that I have or have had in Coven. When for almost 20 years, I was privileged to be involved with the General Hospital Fan Club weekend, which was
Okay.
about the show General Hospital. And you can see it in actors, you can see it in the
Yeah.
photographers. Some people are in it because they love what they're doing and
Mm-hmm.
they love that interaction, they love acting. Some people are in it, look at me, I need this attention.
Yeah.
And they're all
Narcissism.
controlling.
Narcissism. That's what
Right.
it is.
And so they're
You know.
everywhere. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we now are more aware of what those social types are like.
Sure.
And we have some guidance, at least
Right.
through YouTube or whatever, on how
Yeah,
to
I know.
deal
Like,
with.
I don't know how to do that. Let me go watch a YouTube video.
Yeah, let me catch Dr. Phil's podcast
Yeah, or whatever.
on
Yeah.
how to deal with crazy pagans. So yeah, it's challenging. It is. And I've been
Yeah.
a high priestess for over 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And as I look back on some of the stuff that I have had to deal with, I've been more blessed than a lot of people because I
Mm-hmm.
kind of had this no bullshit kind of demeanor, and people sometimes found it off putting. And
Right.
so, if they were going to the rituals or the meetings as a self help group or to get a lot of coddling, I wasn't their cup of tea.
Oh, you weren't. You mean you weren't going to give him therapy?
Nah, I'm not qualified.
But you know what I'm talking about. It's like,
I do, but I
I
also
have a good
knew,
friend of mine she's out in California, and I remember her telling me, she says I had to go solitary because I couldn't handle it. She says I
yeah,
tried here and there, and I thought at first I was with the wrong group, and she just after a while she just said forget it, I just be by
yeah.
myself.
It's tough,
Um,
and they've all got the drama. They've all got the power play politics, and I was blessed that mine didn't. Now, one of the reasons that mine didn't, I believe, is that for the majority of the time that I was working as a high priestess, I was working with my current husband. We've been together 26 years,
mhm,
and so we had a dynamic established already,
okay,
and so everything sort of followed that.
okay,
And we were able to set a tone that was a little more balanced, and I was grateful for that. And that's been consistent. We still run a circle together. And I think that if I had been less settled, and during the times of my life when I was less settled, I probably attracted more of that element
sure,
of people.
yeah,
So I do
right.
think
I
that like
understand.
attracts like thing works
Right,
there.
the energy you put out or the vibes you put out, it's like a magnet, whether we want it or not.
Sure
It's like
enough.
it brings it to you somehow or other. It's like there it is. Wow. Um, and let me ask you because and that's one of the things. Did you ever find where some people were coming to you for more than just, hey, I want to be part of your group, where they were coming to you to, hey, make a very important, almost for everything, instead of like, you need to make your own decisions. Did you ever come across that?
I get that more with my clients.
Okay.
My I've always had a little bit of
Okay.
beloved distancing
Mm-hmm.
with my coven people. When I started running a coven here in the Sacramento area, it was 3 years before I knew anybody's last name. I mean,
Okay.
we literally showed up, did our magic, blew out. I didn't know if they were married, single, what their situation was. I'm not like that now. I know more about my
Right.
people now. That was in the beginning. But in my practice, which I'm one of the few people I have known that is
Mhm.
blessed enough that being a professional witch is my day job and my side hustle. I mean, it's what I do and it sustains
Right.
me well. And in my clients, I have a challenge with that. And I'm a really bad business person because I don't want that. I want them
Yeah.
to, ideally, they're going to be able to think for themselves and not need me.
Sure.
That's the plan, is graduate you out so that
Right.
you're able to be in a stable, intelligent, healthy situation. And of course, people don't go to your local witch when everything's great.
I was about to say that. I was gonna say, are you like the I've tried everything else, help? Is that when
I
you get that
am,
call?
my boat is sinking. Here, take a bucket and start bailing. And if you don't save my boat, you're not doing your job.
Right. Yeah. Oh, what was it? All I've got is this red Dixie cup
Yeah.
to bail
That's
out the
right.
water. But yeah, let me ask you, and that's and that's I guess what you're talking about is what are their expectations as far as what you could do for them? Like you said, especially when they're like maybe in deep doo doo.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
what do you
When
tell
you're
them as far as like you know?
the problem I have is that there's a lot of practitioners out there that will really blow smoke up their asses about what they can do
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and say, I can do this for you for $6,000. I can do this for you for
Mm-hmm.
$3,000. And so they're
Yes.
coming to me, I'm charging like 65 bucks, and they're
Yeah.
saying,
It's like
yeah, so this person can do it. Why can't you? Well, because that person was lying to you to get your money.
right.
And
Exactly.
I'm very clear with expectations. Oh boy, I would say 80% of my client base is somebody saying, I need to get this person back,
Oh, of course.
or I need to get
Absolutely.
this person to fall in love
Yes.
with me, or
Mm-hmm.
this I'm dating this guy and he won't go to the next step. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very clear with expectations. And it's never bothered me if that caused me to lose business, because I would
Sure.
rather be honest with somebody and say, look, what you're asking for is the power of a refrigerator. This candle I'm going to burn for you is a double A battery. Okay. We're going to
Right.
need a lot of double A batteries to
Right.
light
Let
up
me
this
ask you
thing.
something. And do you come across with people, especially the like you said, like, hey, I want to get this person to come back to me, or one of those deals that when you listen to them, you kind of get this a feel like this person's not really into you kind of thing, and that you're thinking, okay, would you that they don't care if they're gonna have to do something to bring this person to them. As how's this? It's almost like this. I want to capture that person. I want to have that person.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's scary. It's
yeah,
terrifying.
yeah,
And it's not it's terrifying for me, for the person who doesn't know that this
right.
person is contacting me trying to manipulate them. And it's
Yes,
scary for me looking at a human that has so little value in themselves
yes.
that they've got to force somebody to be with them who clearly doesn't want to be with them.
Doesn't want to be with them, right? It's not a question of, oh, we had a fight, and we had a little misunderstanding. It's like, no,
No.
don't you see this person is not into you, kind of
And
thing.
I have to have that conversation with people all the time. We're
Yeah.
talking 2-3 times a week of,
Yes.
listen, we're burning these candles because he has straight out said, I do not want to be in a committed relationship. You're trying
Right.
to push him into being in a committed relationship. Gee, that's why your candle's black, Missy. And that's why it's
Exactly.
not going to happen. Well, aren't you magic? Yeah, but
Right. Right. And then how's that question about free will? Like
yeah.
it's like they didn't get the memo on that.
Well, and what's going to happen, right? Even if, let's say that, okay, I'm pushing energy at this person,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a moment of weakness because of this
Right.
energy, and they start to feel like they want to be committed to this person. That's one candle. That candle's going to burn for 3 days. They're going to catch the energy at the height of that
Right.
burn. They will always return to their baseline thinking.
Sure.
And so,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Burn candles till you die?
Well,
No.
it's like, yeah, and you're not gonna get, you might get a booty call out of this
Right.
instead of that lifelong commitment that you supposedly want. Like you said, at that moment they'll just cave in, and then
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. And
And I
that's
always tell them, do you know, with all this energy that we're using to put
mhm.
toward this one person who does not want you, being with you. We could take that energy and put it toward drawing somebody
Sure.
to you that really thinks you hung the moon and the stars in the sky, loves you, wants to be with you, it's on the same page relationship wise. No, let's just burn some more candles for Reginald.
Yes, I've run across personalities like that, that talk about crash and burn,
Mm-hmm.
and that, for lack of a better word, they're obsessive about people or about results and things like that.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, some of them I know have gone that route of spending thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
on I want to have that person no matter what. You
And that's
know,
why it's so important to me to tell them, look, I'm your girl. I'll do it for you. You are not going to see the results you want to see. But
right.
sometimes they need to feel like they did everything they could to make that happen. And if I'm not the one doing it for them, they will find somebody who will do it. And my thought is, I know I can do it with integrity. I know I can do it in a way that doesn't trip them up in
Let
some
me
way.
ask you something. Have you ever had, I'm sure it sounds like you have. Have you ever had to tell them after X amount of time, I told you so?
I have never had that come out of my mouth. I really
Really?
haven't.
You
They
haven't had to
they'll
tell them?
they'll
Like,
cry,
hey, you.
because there's better ways to say it. Please reference
Oh, okay.
previous email.
All right. Okay, I was just being there
Yeah,
like, I told you so.
as per my email of 4 years ago.
You know what? How about the other thing? How about the people, that how they say there's a thin line between love and hate? Have you ever had the one that's like, now I used to love this person a lot, and now I want to like put him 6 feet under, I want him to
Oh,
fall off the
have
side
I
of a
ever
cliff.
had the, I don't know, 3 or 400? Yes. You would, people would be terrified if they knew how often somebody wants to kill them with a candle. It happens all the time. And I'm just
Yeah,
staring at these people. Now, there was a time for about 8 years that my husband and I had a brick and mortar store. So you
right.
had people walking in off the street
Yeah.
and just collapsing into a chair beside you while you're working on something really intently behind a door that says private. And they'll just come into your office, sit down, and big sigh and start dumping their life story on you and
Hmm.
telling you why this person needs to die. And it's the hair goes up on the back of my
Right.
neck. And
Yes.
I don't do that kind of work. I don't do work
Right.
that will break
Right.
people up, and I don't do work that will harm people. But I'm still asked all the time, and well, why don't you do that? You
Right.
have to ask me why. I'm not a hitman.
Right.
Come on.
Right. And that, yeah, like, have you heard about the word like karma? Like,
Well, and there's a man named John Beckett who is a druid that is a wonderful writer, wonderful lecturer, and he says never do anything to a person with magic you would not do to them to their face mundanely.
right.
And I see people all the time that want me to break up this couple or break up that couple. They're wanting me to break up a couple that's not even in the conversation.
And it's, right. And it's like, for lack of a better word, it's almost like I want a magical hit person. Can you put out
Yeah,
this hit,
it absolutely is. And
right?
I don't play that. And I've got all of this work that I do that's designed to, okay, let's create your best life. Let's extricate you from this painful situation and
Hmm.
put you on a path to find real love that's healthy.
Right.
Let's work on getting you a job that you don't hate. No, I want so and so and so and so to leave this job and not be employed here anymore. And there is no, I can tell you, I would say 99% of the work people come to me for involves somehow manipulating the thoughts or action of another person.
Sure. Sure.
Nobody ever comes to me and says, how can I be a better person?
You know what? And that's because, and it's almost because I think intrinsically part of them kind of knows that what they want. How can I say it? Obviously, they can't force the person. They could, but they probably are afraid of getting in trouble. So the next stop is, I want something to like you said,
Yeah,
like they're gonna get fired, or they're gonna like drive off a cliff, or yeah, whatever it is that their intent is, or what they want the outcome to be. All right. And it's almost like, but well, I really didn't do anything. All I did was like through magic. You know what I'm saying? Like my hands are
yeah,
clean kind of deal.
yeah.
It's like, yeah,
And
you're
when you say I really didn't do anything and you're talking about the work that's done, that's the narrative. When somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I was with this person for 5 years, all of a sudden they left, all of a sudden they don't want to be with me, all of a
hmm
sudden I need you to get them back." There's a big piece of that story missing.
Oh, sure. Yes.
And
Yes.
so everybody that comes to me is in a victim capacity, it feels like. And I have to get them out of that. Because once you can pull them out of that victim capacity and get them to see, hey, you did have agency in what happened, you
Well,
can get them to the place where they can feel like they're empowered to do something else that fixes their life.
and I'm gonna say because I've run that sometimes there is some type of, how can I say? I don't want to say mental illness, but behavior disorder. There's that flavor about these people that they become obsessive, um, like they have that tunnel vision kind of deal where they come back to you over and over again, or they want you to do that, or extremes. Like, hey, I want this person. I want to curse this person.
Mm-hmm.
And or the person that they're with. Especially if it's a triangle kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Haven't you run
Well,
across that where they're the other
sure.
person, and then all of a sudden the person goes back to their husband or wife, and now they're.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you: do you have more
Absolutely.
men or women come to you?
I have more women come to me, but
hmm
I do have men. And the men are usually a little slower to admit that that's what they want.
Sure.
But the women are usually just, and I think that's because we developed a culture of magic that was primarily around women.
Sure.
Women for many, many centuries felt very helpless. And so magic was a place where they could use some power to get what they wanted when the world was stacked against them to have any kind of
Right.
power. And so I
Right.
think that we do, as females, have a predisposition to go in that direction as compared to men that, I'm going to fight it, I'm going to kill it,
Action. Yeah, they're into
yeah,
the
take
action.
action on it, right? Whereas we tend to lean more toward energetic resolutions. And we are always accused of being more emotional than men
Sure.
are. Well, the emotions are energy.
Yeah. Of course.
So I do have a lot more females than men. And I really try to, and again, it sounds like I'm just shitting on people that come to me, and I don't mean to do that.
No,
I
but I
really don't.
understand exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I,
I
I
have
know
some
what you mean.
amazing clients. I really, really do. And part of what I do is sit with them and hold space for them and let them sometimes talk about things they can't talk to anybody else about because they know
hmm
I'm a neutral party. But the bottom line is I'm the advocate for that client. And as their advocate, my job is to tell them, look, this is going to be the best use of your energy to get you out of this situation. And that's why I studied psychology and religion and different um, methodologies for problem solving to get people to a place where they can heal themselves
Have you come across people who come to you and tell you, "I think I'm cursed or I'm hexed or something"?
every day.
Okay. And do
Every
you?
day. And there's different cultures that are more prone to that than others.
Yes.
If
Yes.
I've got an Eastern European person who says that they're hexed, I'm going to sit down and talk about why they feel that way. What symptoms do you have? We're going to discuss it. If I've got somebody who's Hispanic, if I've got
hmm
somebody, who is, again, from Cuba, from Haiti, from Mexico, and they say, look, I've been cursed. Let me get my stuff. We're taking care
Yeah.
of it. I know they
Right.
know what it feels like. I know they can recognize it right away. And I know they have people within the culture who will do that and not think twice about it.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes. I
different
mean, I
cultures are
was born and
more
raised in Miami, and believe
right.
me, I've seen. And what's really funny is sometimes like in the Haitian culture. Let me tell you, if they suspect it, they believe it. They you'll have police be called out to like dispute between two people, and the
Mm-hmm.
dispute is over one accusing the other, like you cursed me or you hexed me or you did something to me. And
They
I
probably
mean,
did.
they're not, and it's not like no. They did to them. This is like you're basically trying to ruin my life.
Yeah. Well, when
Whether
we
the other
look at
one.
I wrote a book called Uncrossing, and when you look at the structure of a curse,
hmm
we do curse people every day. And it's not, people think that cursing somebody is about poke the doll, stir the cauldron. And
Right.
really it's about ill wishing a person or sending a huge shot of negative energy at a person and the impact it has on their spirit. So road rage is one of the
Sure.
fastest way a person is cursed. So if an adult has never had a spiritual cleansing, they probably have several curses built up in them that are impacting their life in some way. So yeah, I mean, there's a reason why in our language, when we say we use cursing as an alternate for swearing, and
Right.
there's a reason for that, God damn it, or God damn you, or,
Yeah.
F you, or whatever it might be.
Yes.
That's a curse, but it's also a curse. It's hurtling huge negativity toward a person.
Let me ask you. Well, I'm going to ask you this. Is there, how's this? Is there a difference between, like you said, somebody cuts you off and you're like, you, blah, blah, you, and you, and you, and then everybody goes their own way. That versus the person that let's say, let's go with a neighbor thing. Some neighbor who all they're doing is spending all this time hammering on it, like, hey, I want them to move away, or I want this, it's not like, a momentary anger.
Hmm.
I mean, what are we talking about here? Is it a momentary
You
thing? Is
got
that really, or
you got
somebody that sits there and
degrees.
hammers it?
You got extra factors going on because, for one thing, it's going to depend on the receptivity of the person. If you've got a
Okay.
person who is in a victim mentality, who's very
Okay.
reticent, they are going to absorb that energy more completely than somebody who's like, fuck you too, just
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
and
Right.
let it
Yeah.
roll
Forget.
off, don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a personality type that can do that,
Sure.
and it's actually a very small segment of people that can just blow it off and not think twice about it. And so it's going to depend on the receptivity of the person, but also when we're looking at somebody who is applying intense focus toward the downfall of another person, that's bigger energy than
Right.
just a
Right.
momentary moment of rage. However, when I am doing the cleansing, and I use
Mm-hmm.
eggs to do the cleansing, and I'm looking
Okay.
at the reading of their egg, it's going to look the same because the
Okay.
effects are going to be the same.
Okay.
So it's kind of like if I stab you a little bit with this steak knife, or I
Mm-hmm.
stab you a lot with this butcher knife,
Right.
what's going to happen? Well, we're going to bleed either way.
Okay. Okay. I see
The
what you
bottom
mean.
line is we got to not. I used to teach it. I still do teach a magical ethics class.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day when I first wrote this class in 2013, this class was a lot of PowerPoint slides, and it was about as it harms none, do what you will, and being very, very careful about threefold law and karmic flashback and all these other this, and this. Now my whole presentation is one slide that says, "Don't be an asshole," and that's really what it's about.
I love it. Yeah.
Is this
Exactly.
yeah, is this a crappy way to be in the world? Don't do it. If you are
Right.
defending yourself, if you're creating a boundary and
Mm-hmm.
defending yourself from somebody who's a narcissist or somebody who has borderline personality disorder or somebody who is constantly impacting you in a negative way, and you're setting a boundary of
Right.
defense, that's different. But if you're
Right.
trying to monkey around in somebody else's life to achieve an effect that you want to see them do, you're an asshole.
Right. Right. Because you're
And
trying to manipulate things
yeah,
a certain way for your benefit. Let me ask you
right.
something. Let's say in the case of what you just described, you've got this, let's go with a coworker scenario. You've got a coworker who's a jerk, her, him, whatever, jerk. And to the point, not like a jerk, like, because wherever you go, you're going to find jerks, but
Mm-hmm.
somebody that is really gunning
Yeah.
for you for some reason. And you do something to protect yourself. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But you leave it open ended. How that works out towards that person is basically hands off.
Yep. Jesus said no. I mean, that's really what it comes down
Okay.
to.
All
If
right.
you're and you're entitled to defend yourself.
Sure.
And that's where people get all bunged up about the ideas of karma or the idea of threefold law and all of these religious constructs that create reaction, cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
If you're defending yourself magically, that is a whole other thing. And really, I mean, if you walk into your house and
Right.
somebody is attacking your child, you are
Exactly.
going to use anything in that house as a weapon
Yes.
to stop
Yes.
that from happening. And it's the same thing with your
Exactly.
energy. And if you are under attack, you have the right to create safety for yourself. That is something different than maliciously saying, well, I don't like how they're growing their grass. They're going to have to leave.
You know what? I laugh, but there's people out there that are like that,
Yeah.
right? You there's people out there um that you think, well, that's a little bit over the top there, but there's people that control is everything to them. All right,
Yeah.
including controlling the neighbor. Like, hey, you're that grass, you let it grow half an inch too much,
Right. HOA, and
HOA.
one of
Yeah,
the
all
things I had to
HOAs are run by people like that.
yeah. One of the things I had to learn very quickly and the hard way is when somebody comes to me, and when I was a baby witch, just starting out in doing work for people professionally, I wanted to help everybody. I wanted to just breastfeed the world with energy. I want to take care of
Yeah.
all you people. And if somebody came to me, I was spending time with them, I'm listening, and I'm going to battle with these folks. And I had to learn the hard way that you're hearing one part of the story. It's a
Hmm.
part of the story that is 99% chance not accurate because it's
Sure.
only their side. And the way I learned this is I had a girl come to me. She'd been dating a guy. She really liked him. And she
Hmm.
really just wanted him to feel a little bit more for her, be a little more into her. I can do that. Sure, let's do some bewitching candles and get you glammed up a little bit, girl. And
Hmm.
so I worked and worked and worked and worked. And so then she starts saying, well, he's paying a little more attention. Let's up it. I'd like to, try to get him to propose. So we get into a little bit heavier stuff. And again, this is in the beginning when I first started. After a few months of this, it just happened by chance that a guy came into the store
Oh my God.
and he said, I really need some help. I don't know what to do. Okay, well, sit down in my chair and talk to me about it. And he said, there's this person that I met online dating. I dated them once. And I I really just I got the feeling that they were not on the same page with me as far as relationships and what we wanted, and I wasn't into them. They kind of scared me a little bit, so I didn't call them back, and now this person's stalking me. She's come to my work, she's calling my
Oh.
work, she's at my house, she parks outside of it. It's been months. I don't know what to do. I've blocked her. I've tried to get restraining orders, but I can't because she hasn't harmed me. I just need her to go away. And I said, well, sure, I can work on that. No problem. But I'll need a picture of her so I can focus. And it's
Oh.
that girl.
I was about to say, and drum
Yeah.
roll.
And I'm like, oh. And so
You're
again,
like,
from
oh,
her perspective,
sure.
she just likes this guy and wants him to pay attention to her.
All right, and and
From
you're
his
thinking, oh,
yeah,
she just they have a good relationship, and she wants to get a ring on her
that's
finger.
right. But what is nice, and I did work for him. Now that was a total conflict of interest. Don't get me wrong. That was
Right? No,
completely
but at the same
unethical.
time, it's like, yeah,
But I was undoing a mistake that I made as a rookie
sure,
witch. And I needed that lesson. I needed to understand that there's a big picture I have to look at when somebody's talking to me. And
yes.
so I really try to do that. And I always try to gear them toward a more positive outcome than they're going to get if I do what they ask me to do.
Let me ask you, Katrina, have you ever had somebody, and I know you don't have your shop open, but before or even now online, somebody that's come to you and they've got something really dark with them that you're saying, wow, this is like beyond me. Have you ever had that
Yeah, I
experience?
refer people out all the time. When I was younger, I did the exorcisms, I did the house
Mm-hmm.
clearings and the poltergeist relocations and all that, fancying myself as John Constantine with a cigarette hanging
Yeah.
out. Where is that? Covered it with a mirror. But
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I just got too old for it.
Yeah.
And with it, a lot of people think an exorcism is going to be all the power of Christ compels you,
Yeah.
but it's really just holding somebody for about 4 hours, restraining them while they convulse and cuss at you and
Yeah.
pee on you and scream. And it's just not an old person's game. And so now, especially for the last 10 years or so, I refer
Hmm.
out like crazy. I
Yeah.
know, there's some people that are just better at it than I am who are willing to go to those extremes. I have people now that I'm only working by remote that'll message me and say, hey, I've got this spirit attached to me. I know where it came from and it's doing this and it's doing that. Can you do a cleansing? you know what, I can try, but you need somebody in person
In
to
person to
take
do it.
care of you. And I tell them that all the time. Another thing that comes up a lot is, and this really makes me crazy. I get a lot of people who are diehard Christians who will contact me and say, I'm not comfortable with who you are. I'm not comfortable with what you do, but I need you to help me. And what do you do with that?
Yeah.
And I just let them know, look, there are people in your faith who can
Right.
manage this. You just have to find them. And that's going to make you more comfortable. God is all powerful. God will find a way to heal you and send the person to you to heal you if you pray about it and ask for that. But if you come to me and you're afraid of me, how can I be your
It's not
ally?
gonna work. It's not
It's
gonna
not
work.
going to
Have
work.
you ever had anybody which is dark, and it's not like I want to get rid of this. It's that when, especially I imagine if, well, it can also be online, but especially in person, that you're thinking, man, whatever is with you, crap. Like
Yeah,
it's not like
yeah.
they're saying, hey, give me an exorcism. It's like it's all good with me, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. You know what along those lines, what really gets me are what I call the star effers. And those are the people that they get off on, and I understand the appeal, going into meditation so deeply that they're out on the astral and they can have sex with ghosts and disincarnate
Oh,
beings and this sort of stuff. They come back with all
jeez.
these nasty astral STDs and want me to clean it up
Yes.
because they've been out there
Yes.
vulnerable. You are no more vulnerable than when you're being sexual. And so you're out
Yes.
there, this big magnet, opening
Yes.
yourself up vulnerably, and boom, 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 all this mess
Yeah.
comes at you. I'm like I don't know, the cleanup crew for the like hazmat or something that's got
Yeah.
to come in and
Yeah.
clean all this mess up. And it makes me crazy. And
Well, you
I
know
said,
what? Some
why are
people
you
think
doing
that
this?
because you're meditating, like they think of the
Yeah,
meditating, it's all good. And it depends where you're going in that meditation
it
or
does.
what
And
you're
the average person that just goes in, relaxes, gets their brain to be calm, and just sees what's there for them is going to be fine. But you get these people that are like, I'm going to go to the Akashic Records, and on the way there, I'm going to do this and this. Oh, jeez. You,
right. Yes.
yeah, it's exhausting. And it's
You'll
exhausting.
even have accounts of people that have been like remote viewers,
Yeah,
and in other words, that's what whether they were in the military or anything, and they themselves will say, hey, when you go out there, you got to be really careful
yeah.
what you encounter when you're trying to do that remote viewing because of the nasty entities that you could encounter there.
And you're turning into a beacon for them.
Yes.
When you go out there with your little dumbass self, like, oh, hi, everybody, I'm here. They're all going to come flying into you.
Yes.
And I've had one girl say, oh, they're just so charming, though. Well, yeah.
Hmm.
If they come at you like this great big beast, you're not going to welcome them in.
Sure. And
And
it's
it's just,
almost like that vampire thing. You got to
yeah.
put the invite out before they can come in, and
And
um,
I love meditation. I love the things I learn. I love going to all of the special places and all that. But you got to learn what you do, and you got to be careful. And I have never seen positive outcomes from having a ghost lover or uh,
no.
having people on the astral that you're intimate with. I have
Right.
had a couple of them that had partners that passed, that
Right.
they are connecting with the partners after the partner died, and that seems to fulfill something in them. But I found from a psychological standpoint, it keeps them from moving on as well, and
Yes, it
having
does.
any
It
sort of
does.
life. So I'm always careful about people that do that, because I want to be respectful of that relationship they have, while
Yeah.
still encouraging them, hey, you're still here, and there are life experiences here still waiting for you.
Well, I did alternative hypnotherapist. I was a hypnotherapist for many years, and I worked with spiritual attachments. And you would run across like exactly like what you described, widow, widower, or not even. And at the beginning, when they were like, "No, don't leave me," in the first that painful, right after the death of the person, and then like you said, you might get an attachment from this partner who they're kind of you've asked them to stay, and they're worried about you, and maybe they see you grieving, and then down the line, when the pain starts going away, all of a sudden that attachment or the presence of that person
Mhm.
starts interfering in your life,
Yep.
because hey, you get stuck, or things,
Very
maybe you're
true.
ready to move on, but hey, remember, you were the one that asked this person, don't
Yeah.
leave me, don't leave
And a
me,
lot of
whatever.
times that's a manifestation of the guilt that they feel.
Sure.
For one of the hardest things I ever saw was when somebody came to me, they'd lost their partner a year before, and they're really reluctantly and shyly telling me that their partner is still with them in
Hmm.
ghost form and is very
Yes.
attached to them. They're frequently being intimate, and I'm feeling this presence, and I know it's not their partner.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's always
Right.
and I
Yes.
chose not to have the conversation because
Yeah.
the person would not have been receptive to it, would have shut me right down, and
Hmm.
had actually had friends that had told her the same thing, that she relayed this to me, that they told me it's not him. I know it's him.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of like a circular kind of
Yeah.
thinking. Um, they and I had people come in that would kind of tell me, look, like they almost didn't want to believe it, but it's like I feel this person is close by, and I've even gone to bed, and I feel like this person is like, and all of a sudden it's scaring them. You
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying?
Sure, sure.
Because or they come with the uh, well, came because I haven't been done it. Hey, I can't move forward with my life, and all of a sudden I just feel like all I can think about is this person, and time has gone by, and I'm ready to move on, but for some reason I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you said, then when they soften up a little bit and you don't go, ha
Yep.
ha ha, they kind of say, and you know what? There's times that I kind of feel like this
Mm-hmm.
person,
Yeah.
especially around sleep time, like when you go to bed.
That in between time, those transitional times
Yes.
are the most
And
active
it was
times.
like, um,
Yeah.
and I understand sometimes when people are fresh in their grief, they say a lot of things, not
Sure.
realizing that sometimes it's taken verbatim,
Mm-hmm.
like,
They
you
do.
know,
And I realize that there's sometimes you don't need or want the spirits around you to
yeah,
leave. I mean, sometimes I make a spray called No More Monster Spray that's specifically to give you a little bit of dominion, because
all right,
sometimes you don't want grandma to go away. You're just like, Grandma, leave Timmy alone. It's 2 a.m. You
right,
just want
yes,
that buffer there. And we've
yes,
got spirits in our house like mad. Most of them are animals. For some reason, we have a lot of animal
really,
spirits in my house. And we don't want them to go away. We just want them to stop jumping on the bed when we're trying to sleep.
right, yeah. No, I know what you mean, but yeah, I can imagine what is are you or your husband the medium? Who's the medium there? That's pulling them
Neither
in.
one of us does it professionally.
No, I'm not saying, but
They're just there. They just are there. And we lived in a house for 22 years
uh huh.
that burned to the ground in the Caldor fire recently. And that
Oh,
house was, I mean, this was a gold mining town that
okay.
had burned to the ground 3 other times. That house was pristine. There was nothing in there. The whole town is haunted, and my house is clean. What is that? And then I move into this house, and it's in the middle of nowhere and just popping.
Yeah.
There's spirits everywhere. So we've actually enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun.
Let me ask you. One time, let me ask you, because because I ran across this one time. I was doing an investigation, and this was family. They had moved to Florida from Australia. And they rented this big giant house, and stuff started happening. And come to find out, what had happened was that something had been buried, like a cursed object had been buried on the ground, but it was meant for the previous people that had lived there. Okay. But they were still getting the effects, which is like they don't realize that it doesn't matter if you're not the person was directed at. You live in that house now, so guess what? It's
Mm-hmm.
yours.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you? Sometimes I think people have a hard time understanding that some curses or hexes don't have to be directed at you. It could just be the place.
Yeah, it's like uranium, or
Right.
you put it there, you're still going to feel it. I
Yeah.
take every now and then I'll run into a family curse for somebody, and that's when it
Okay.
does follow DNA lines. But otherwise, if it's there, you can feel the effects.
Right. In other words, some people think, well, I haven't done anything, and it's like, no, well, but whoever did it, just because of the fact that you're living in that land or in that house,
Right.
whatever the case was,
Yeah.
you're going to get the side effects from it.
You're absolutely
And
right. And I love that attitude. What you just said was so familiar to me. I haven't done anything wrong. You know
yeah,
what? Yeah, you did. The
Yeah.
fact is that we've all done things that irritate people, hit people wrong,
Sure.
banged our cart into somebody accidentally in Walmart who is schizophrenic and thinks that something else just happened.
Sure.
And we're always on the line of fire for that sort of thing. So if there's something buried in your walls, in your house,
Hmm.
yeah, you'll absolutely feel it. Pick up something you shopped at the thrift store that has something attached
Oh
to it.
my God, that's my favorite subject right there.
Yeah,
I tell
that's
everybody,
awesome.
you know how people leave now, besides the thrift shop or the garage sale, they'll just leave stuff on the curb.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've done investigations on attachments, and I said, you know what? Everybody thinks of things of old stuff, like the creepy doll or something, the being haunted. I
Yeah,
go, it could be be quiet, you guys. It could be the most innocuous thing
yeah, your
that somebody left
blender.
on the
Yeah,
right on the whatever on the curb, and then you what a great find. And it's like you have to be really careful when you take things in because it doesn't have to be creepy looking for it to become creepy.
you know what?
And
One of the biggest things that we really, over the time we had the stores, kept running into were mirrors. People constantly
oh,
brought mirrors to us to clean. And especially old mirrors, those things are
uh-huh.
witnesses. They see everything.
Okay.
And so, just mugwort those things out and they're fine. But
Right.
yeah, we used to always get mirrors and yeah, it's never the creepy doll. It's never the clown doll. It's
It's like
always something stupid like the cast iron skillet or
yes.
the pillow
Yes.
that was on the couch of somebody that was murdered. you know.
Well, and I've even, and I'm sure maybe I don't know if you've done house cleansings. I've told people, you know what, you could go and buy or rent a house, property, an apartment, whatever, and it's all painted and scrubbed and it's nice. But I've had instances where if there was a certain room that was a sick room, let's say
Mhm.
somebody that was ill for a long time, they weren't in a hospital, but they were there maybe months, even years being ill, and you'll have somebody take over that room and then they start developing the symptoms and it's not haunted per se in the sense of actual spirit, but what occurred there for a length of time is like
Yeah,
it's become part of the tapestry of that space.
absolutely.
And
Um,
have you
so
run across that where people think, or if
yeah,
it's a newer place, that it's like, well, why is
and
anything happening?
when somebody is ill or at the moment an impact of an injury,
Hmm.
at that moment, just like with sexuality, they're extremely vulnerable. When somebody's under general anesthesia and being
Yes.
cut into, they're very vulnerable. And so when you're talking about a sick room situation, you may be also talking about somebody that has been in and out of the hospital. And
Yes.
hospitals are a hotbed
Oh my
for
God, yes.
attachments. And so you've got not only the fact that somebody is in peril in a room
Hmm.
and vulnerable in a room and therefore attracting in spirits. But you've also had them at the corner penthouse of Spook Central,
Yes.
bringing it back
Yes.
into the room. So that's always a concern. People think it's going to be the place where the person committed suicide, and that's usually just going to feel very
Or the
sad
murder or something like
and
that. Yeah.
lots of resignation and feelings of despondency and then feelings of elation. But it's the sick people that
Hmm.
really bring it in.
Right, because
Absolutely.
people don't realize that sometimes people will die. Either, let's say, if they were brought, let's say that hospital, what you said, they lost consciousness and they die
Yeah.
in the hospital, or they're under
Yep.
anesthetic in the operating room and they die. Like they miss the part where I'm dead kind of thing. And then that's where you can get an attachment. Like it's like
Absolutely.
hospitals are hotbeds because sometimes people, that awareness of I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say if the last thing you had was I was in a bad accident, and then after that it's all dark, and then when I come to,
Mm-hmm.
I miss the part where my body's mangled.
Yeah. If you even
And
have a concussion and pass out for a little bit,
yes, oh yeah,
there's
yes.
and there's so many different ways, and it it just yeah, not good.
No,
Not
people
good.
that I would say that. Well, let's not even go into funeral homes, like, but yeah, the a lot of these things. Sometimes people, I think also, what do you, what would you recommend? Because I've heard that usually it's easier to get an attachment or something if your aura is either weak or thinned out.
Usually it's going to be the obvious things that will make
Mhm.
that susceptible. It's going to be illness, it's going to be injury, it's going to be Depression will do it as well.
Yes.
Um, but also, I mean, we can get an attachment just bebopping through the store.
Hmm.
I clean entities out of people all the time that are just energy suckers, basically. They're little
Yes.
parasites, little energy parasites. So you're walking along, you know, in TJ Maxx or something, and you get this heavy feeling like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
I hope I don't have COVID, or I must be getting a cold, or
Right.
I just got exhausted. What happened? I'm going to go home and take a nap. Whereas the person who just walked past you suddenly feels better than they have in a few weeks.
Yes.
And what happened was that that energy parasite, for lack of a better analogy, chewed up this piece of gum. And so they're popping to the next warm body that comes along.
Right.
And I really believe that eventually we will be able to isolate this as not germ warfare, but you know, the same way that we didn't used
Right.
to know what caused viruses. I think we
Yeah.
will find what causes this
Well, I think
at
that
some
there's a
point.
lot of people, like you said, that they'll be having a wonderful day and they're in a good mood, and then they'll go out, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, I was in a great mood, and now I'm either angry or down, and I
Mhm.
really don't have a reason for it. I
Yeah, those
just
are
what
empaths.
happened? Let me ask you: Do is there such a thing as a psychic vampire?
There are two different kinds. One is, so there are people that I know personally who are admitted psychic vampires. It's a
Hmm.
practice that they do and they enjoy. And just like the mythology of the vampire, they have donors who are willing to sit with them and give them energy so that they can pull the energy from them. And that's a practice that is usually consensual
Hmm.
and is something that is done to build one's own personal energy up. A lot of times, people who are hyperactive, or if they are manic depressive and they're in a manic phase,
Hmm.
will have a friend who's a psychic vampire, so that they can sit with them and drag them down to
Okay.
a normal reaction phase, whereas that person's getting off on the increased energy, and it's sort of a symbiotic thing. Now, that's one situation.
Hmm.
Bookmark that. Then we
Right.
have the people who are just energy black holes, that whether
Right.
they intend to or not, oh my God, it's like it's the Colin Robinson of what we do in the
Oh my God,
shadows.
you read my mind.
You're just talking to him, and all the life is
Yeah.
just leaving you.
Yeah.
My greatest nightmare is being that person. And
Yeah.
not
It's
knowing that I'm that person. But yeah, it's I see it a lot with running rituals for people. Part of what I do as a high priestess is I've got to monitor the flow of energy around the circle. And sometimes you'll see that the energy is just zooming around the circle until it hits this one person, and then it tanks. And you've got
right.
to reroute the energy past them and around.
Okay.
And so, sure, there's people that do it and know it, and there's people that do it and don't know it.
Right. Yes. That I've heard of those people who are like, they'll talk. It's a conversation. Well, how's it outwardly? It looks like two people having a conversation. All right. And of course, it's all one sided. Where this person is like, "We'll talk a little bit about you," but then the rest of this conversation is about me, 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 and me. And part of that conversation is something that you don't see, which is where they're
Mm-hmm.
pulling.
Yeah.
You know,
And I
and I'm
don't
du-
people
or
well.
they're dumping their like
Yeah.
negativity. Because I've told you all my woes.
I don't people well. And so when that starts to happen, I start to get this frantic thing where I want to eat off my foot to get out of this trap.
Yeah.
Because and it's getting worse as I've gotten older. When I was young, I was Miss Infinite Compassion. And
Right.
now it's just like, man, time's wasting. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I
Yeah.
got a cake in the oven. I gotta leave.
Yeah, right, right. Like it's like yeah, if your feelings are hurt, oh well.
Yeah, bless your heart. I gotta go, man. It's
Yeah.
jam
Yes.
time.
Yeah, and what's really funny that these people they'll move on to somebody else. They'll try to find a young version of you. They'll sit there and go, "Oh, really? Oh my
Yeah,
God! Oh,
yeah.
yeah."
No
Like,
patience.
oh,
If I
and then
didn't
think
birth you and you don't pay my bills, we're not going to have that conversation.
exactly, exactly. But they're always looking for, what's that word? The bleeding heart. Where
The
it's like,
mom,
oh,
the
and
mother,
you know
yeah.
what, and they'll and you if you think, they think, oh my God, this person just needs a shoulder to to cry on or to lean on, and it's like it's never going to be enough. You don't get it,
Hmm.
do you? Even though
And
you
you
come
know, you
home
can
and you want to take a
parallel
nap.
that. you can parallel that with the growing of confidence and
Mhm.
what you have to offer the world as you get older.
Sure.
Because
Yes.
when you're younger, you're not quite seated in that. You don't really know what your currency is, and so you start
Yes.
using your attention and your kindness and your compassion as currency rather
Mhm.
than a genuine part of who you are. And it's not a bad thing. It's not in any way deplorable. I mean, it's just a thing that we do, is that we have this infinite amount of energy for people when we're younger because of that while we find our place. But once we find our place, we get a little bit stingier with the
Well, no,
energy.
I believe it, and I know this is like an extreme. It's almost like an act of self-preservation where there's a point, and like you said, as you get older, you develop these boundaries better. Whereas I want to help you, but not to the point where all of a sudden it's all you and I'm like, and it's nothing. It's like no, no, And as a matter of fact, that's my first sign that you're a problem
Mm-hmm.
because you don't realize that you're just, if I let you,
Mm-hmm.
you'll just like, let me be dramatic here, suck the life out of me kind of deal,
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
they do that with energy work too, where they want you to do energy work to get them a job.
right.
But they're not going and filling out applications. They're not taking any classes. They're not talking to people. They're not doing the legwork. They
Yes.
want the UPS dude to drive up and offer them a job. You've got to
Right.
be able to do as above, so below, as they say. You've got to
Hmm.
put physical energy and practical work behind what you're
Right.
doing. It's a marriage, and people aren't willing to do that. They don't want to do the hard work. They just want this to be a cop out so they don't have to
Well, you remember
get
back when
dirty.
The Secret came out, I think it was like in '07.
Oh
But
gosh.
there was a lot of people were
Really?
poo-pooing it because they were thinking, "Hey, I'm gonna sit on the sofa
Mm-hmm.
and, like you said, I'm gonna get on the knock on the door and whatever it is." And it's like, you missed the whole point of the whole thing, you
That
know?
whole positive positivity or toxic positivity thing
Yeah.
just, it makes me crazy. The
Yes.
Secret was just, oh god, that's just so precious. I loved the Celestine prophecy, but
Yes.
when we got into even laws of attraction gets a little
Mhm.
bit weird for me sometimes, because it really, a lot of the premise is, if you, and Nexium did this too, the cult Nexium,
Yes.
where if you have something bad happening to you, it's because you drew that to you.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so
Believe it or not, yes, well, Scientology also has that flavor to it,
they sure
you
do.
know, where, but yeah, but how can I say it? My thing was that a lot of this, it was like, yeah, I understand the mindset. Absolutely, your mindset is going to help. Like we say, the attraction, the vibes. But
Hmm.
like you were explaining, unless you get up and do something, do it. Like whatever you said, whether it's fill out applications or make phone calls or I don't know, whatever you want. If you don't do that, you're gonna be
Hmm.
disappointed, of course.
Or
You
have
know,
the conversation with the guy that
hmm
says, I'm looking for a committed relationship. That's what I want. If you
right?
aren't on the horse, let's go. I'll find somebody else.
Sure.
Have the currency of your worth to say, I'm better than this. I
Well,
don't need to sit around and wait for you to decide to be somebody you're not so that
right,
I
and
can
then
have the
and
relationship
they
I
wanna
want.
like, and then I guess that's when they come up. They
Hmm.
approach you and they wanna like whatever, make that person the person. Um,
Yeah.
and you know what? And this is down the psychology thing where a lot of these people basically they're reenacting stuff from their childhood or
No
very
doubt.
young
Absolutely.
relationship, and that's why it's got to be that person because that person is exactly that emotionally and maybe not physically like that person I was trying to resolve it with. And the nice guy, like you said, that will get married and do the right thing.
Hmm.
I'm not attracted to that because
Right.
I need that SOB so that I can resolve this thing.
I gotta, yeah, my abandonment issues are not going
Right.
to be resolved by somebody who will be with me.
Exactly. That nice guy that you just described, which is like, hey, he's going to marry you and do
Who's
right by you.
boring, and yeah.
Right. Yeah. Boring. Yeah, exactly. Like, as a matter of fact, I heard that once you get out of, those, you've heard of those people that say, oh my God, I can't believe I ended up with the same man or the same woman, like that same
Hmm.
all over. They say, look, from now on, you should get a matchmaker or a friend don't go with a person you're attracted to, because that's, get somebody else to do the choosing for you,
Wingman, yeah.
so that you don't end up with that same thing, like, I can't believe I got the same
Yep.
guy all over again.
I had one of my clients say to me, I don't understand. And this is somebody I knew who was a friend of mine that was also, doing work for. And she said, I don't, just all wide eyed and confused. I don't understand why every man I date, every man I meet is an alcoholic. I'm like, because
It's
you
like
pick them up in bars.
that usually that works that way. Yeah.
If you go to a library and pick somebody up, you got a better chance.
Of course, of course. And I had one time, I had clients that they would come to me, and they were women. They would be hitting 30, and they hadn't gotten married, and they would tell me, you know what? They were successful, by the way. Everything else in their life, they were very successful
Yep.
career wise and everything. And, but they were that type of life, the person that lives life like with a checklist kind of deal. And they would tell me, you know what? I've had these relationships, but we end up being friends. And I said, because they were
Mm-hmm.
so scared of meeting somebody that would make them feel out of control,
Mm-hmm.
that even from the get-go, even though originally there was that, that attraction, it's
Mm-hmm.
like you always knew this was a safe bet. And, that they were so scared of being out of control, like in love,
Yeah.
that here they were 30 years old, and that part of their life, which is like, I want to have a family, I want to have kids, I've
Mm-hmm.
done everything. It's like, I would tell them, okay, well, that's why you end up being friends with all your exes, because that was the safe bet.
Yeah.
Emotionally, you knew, I like you, I'm into you, but I'm not in love
Yep.
with you. And
And seems like the older that you get, the harder it is to blend your life in with somebody
sure,
else's
of
and
course,
have any matter of control.
of course, there's a lot of other factors that come in. Previous marriages, children, blended family. Yeah, it gets a lot more complicated.
It sure
Um,
does.
Let me ask you, what would you be your advice? And you know, with this thing of technology, this right here, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. It's great. I'm stuck. Hey, I got a flat tire. But at the same time, it's almost put like I don't want to say a barrier, but I think that human beings, we need the face to face contact with people. You know, Even if you're going to, let's say, to a concert, any place, there's
Mm-hmm.
we're social animals.
There are ways that it's made us more
Okay.
social, but it's
Right.
made us more social almost in a narcissistic way.
Right.
Because it's about look at what I'm eating and look at what I'm doing and look at my legs against the sunset. And it's look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me,
Yes.
look at me. There's never been a time in history that
No,
we've
there
taken more
isn't.
photographs ever.
I believe it.
And even the selfie is about ourself.
Let me tell you something.
And
If I
so
have to
it's
see one more picture of somebody like this going, I'll
you
vomit.
know, it's
Okay.
very much a self-based relationship that we're having with people. But
Right.
I mean, there's no doubt that it's a blessing for people that can't get out or for people who are neurodivergent to the point that they can't be around people very much. It keeps them social. It keeps them uh, people checking on them and being interactive. So there are excellent points to it. But there's also, as you said, it can be used as a cop out so that, oh, I just don't want to go out today. And you
Right.
can say that for 6 months and not
Yes.
see another human, especially if you're
Right.
one of the people that's still fortunate enough to work from home.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's
it's a
great for the
blessing and it's a curse.
introverts. For the
It
introverts,
really
it's like, oh, this is wonderful. But I think that um down the line, it's like, put on your big boy pants or your big girl pants, and you got to go out there. What is it? To kiss a few
mm-hmm.
frogs.
Yeah.
Before you find the whatever. So let me in my what I was coming to, Katrina, is that despite all the technology, computers, the phone, that everything, that you're being checked on and everything, that some people seem to dismiss also the power of magic in this world. Okay. That
Mm-hmm.
what's done is not uh cannot be controlled by this. How's that?
I think it depends on what bubble you live in.
All right.
Because one of the things where magic really changed because of technology,
Mm-hmm.
an example is this: in 1999. a woman named Gail Detmar out here in Sacramento created the first Sacramento Pagan Pride Festival. And
Okay.
this was a festival. She did such a great job that National Pagan Pride used her festival as a template to offer to
Okay.
other people to create other festivals. And I went to that. My little boy was 2 weeks old, and we had him in the little umbrella stroller, drove up in our VW bus, the whole bit. And we were looking at this with jaw dropped because here are hundreds of pagans. We didn't
Okay.
know there were this many pagans in the world, much less at a VFW post in Sacramento. And it was
Okay.
just amazing. We were with our people. We felt included. We felt kinship. It was amazing. Now, fast forward to now,
Mm-hmm.
and as I said, I run the or the Pangaya Festival out here, and we do not get the attendance. She would get 3,000, 6,000 people a day coming through that event. We get a few hundred.
Right.
Why? Because now they can reach out
Yeah.
online and have ongoing connections with thousands of pagans, thousands of people like themselves every single day. So it's not as much of a novelty. So I
Right.
would say that the main way that technology has affected magic um, is one of the main ways is by this connectedness with
Right.
pagans of all kind. The other thing that it did is it took away the card catalog. We used
Okay.
to go to the library and we had to look through
Yes.
the card catalog and hope that they had
Ah.
that book on
Sure.
the shelf and that somebody hadn't stolen it, and get an interlibrary loan and wait 17 weeks for it to come in, and
Right.
the whole thing. Now, all of this amazing information is at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, there are some places you just will not go wrong, like herbology. If you're looking up the magical properties of herbs,
Okay.
thousands and thousands of herbs, it's probably not going to be wrong on the internet. It's pretty consistent. If you're looking up the energy coordinations for colors and what correspondences there are with colors and magic, you're probably not going to go wrong. If you're going to look up what different stones do, you're probably not going to go wrong. Now, I just described some of the books that were the biggest sellers in
Right.
the 70s and 80s that we were just
Mm-hmm.
clinging to. Oh my God, I've got my Cunningham's book of magical herbs,
Right. And yeah,
you know,
exactly.
whereas we can just access it in 30 seconds of GTS. Google that shit, and so we've
That's
got
great.
our information there. So that's another way that it's affected it. The other way that it's affected it to the negative, two ways I can think of right off the bat. One,
Okay.
everybody's got a damn opinion and they just live to correct each other and to be superior and
Yeah.
to, oh no, actually, and over
Yes.
explain. You can't have an experience without somebody picking it apart.
Oh my God. Yes, I've seen that.
So
And
there's
other
that.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I can see that's negative is the TikTok witches and the stuff on the internet that is explaining to you the simple way to curse somebody. And, just the spell work is ludicrous. Not that
Uh
it
huh.
wouldn't work, but that it's not going to work safely and it's not going to bring you the
Right.
results that you need. And I'm not one of these people that says, oh, you're not a witch unless you've been initiated by another witch by a Gardnerian tradition, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I understand the value of that, but that's not my belief. But I tell you, everybody's a witch on the internet. And it just gets old just seeing,
Yes. 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 Right. Let me ask you something. Isn't there? I'm going to ask. I guess depending also on what they're trying to do, isn't there any danger on a metaphysical level for somebody that thinks they know what they're doing, and it kind of boomerangs on them?
there always has been since the beginning of time. So
Well, but you know what? Before you, hopefully, you had a mentor, like you said, or you belong to a
yeah,
group, or
I think that we're all, anybody who has been magical for any length of time or been a witch for any length of time has a volume of stories of all the times you screwed up and the universe just made you eat it,
yeah,
and the universe delights in. Now there's two thoughts of this. For one thing, I don't believe that magic is a dangerous place to be. I just don't. I believe magic is one of the most natural things you can be and do. I think that it's inherent to us. I think it's a part of life. I don't think it is supernatural. I think it's just beyond what we understand. And so
Right.
I love magic and energy, and I don't encourage people to approach it fearfully or as though the universe is just waiting to trip you up. I don't think
Okay.
that's true. And I don't think, oh, magic comes at a price, dearie. I don't think that's true either. I think that magic is part of the concert, it's part of the natural process. We
Okay.
are part of the natural process. Now, that being said, I do think the
Yeah.
universe has a scathing sense of humor. And I think it
Yes.
absolutely loves to show us our ass when we put it out there. So
Right.
when we make obvious mistakes, this is not one of those things of the Lord loves drunks and little children. When we
Yeah.
make mistakes, they're going to show up, and that's how we learn. So that's how I
Yeah.
approach that.
Right. And you know what? And it's true. I'm gonna real segue real quick, like what you said that people pick apart. One time I was in this forum that it had to do with chickens. It was like a chicken thing because I have chickens. People on there, you have depending, and people will post questions, and then hopefully you get help. And it's like you said, or you make a comment, and then all of a sudden it's like, I know more, and you did not. And I was like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I see exactly what you mean as far as that there's personalities
Mm-hmm.
that I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm gonna, I gotta let, how could you say that? Did you know that? And I was like, okay, sorry, I asked, forget it. But yeah, I know that personality style, what you're
Yeah.
talking about, and the reason why I asked that, like I said, I grew up in South Florida. Down South Florida, of course, you have the Santeria, you have the voodoo from the Haitians, if you have candomblé from the Brazilians and blah 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 blah, and there's a lot of botanicas and stuff, and a couple of times I I went on investigations where really at the root of it was that somebody had tried to dabble, not really knowing what they were doing, and it kind of boomeranged on them,
Mm-hmm.
and then they were in a world of hurt and they didn't know how to get themselves out of it. Okay. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like you said, this thing about where you see, like you said, the TikTok witches, where you may dress or sound like you know what you're doing. How can you know how stupid actually makes something happen
Mm-hmm.
somehow or other?
Yeah.
And that's what I was wondering about, where you come across people like it's not that not to do it, but at the same time, they almost do it expecting that it's not really going to work, and
Mm-hmm.
then it does.
Yeah. Some people just watch the craft way too many times.
Oh my god! Yeah,
And
yeah,
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 it's true. It's true.
yeah.
So, one of the things that this is one place I really see people screw up a lot. And it's obvious thing that people would want. And one of my mentors told me, be careful when you invoke justice because it splatters.
There you go.
And people will want to invoke justice when
Hmm.
justice is not what they need. I have people coming to me all the time who are in legal trouble and
Yes,
want me to invoke justice when I'm looking at what they're describing, and justice is not on their side.
right. But they see it that,
You don't
yeah,
want justice, you want contre la ley. You
yeah,
want to,
yes,
you want to be off the radar. You don't want
yes,
justice. Justice is going to eat you.
yes, yes, yes,
And
yes.
it's not the universe's justice or the universe's laws that we're working with. It's man's laws. It's your local laws. That's what's going to get you. And
Right,
if your ducks are not in a row and your side of the street is not clean, you don't want to be invoking justice
right.
because
That's
it
like the
will.
wrong thing to ask for, because when you get it, you're gonna be like, wait a minute. It's like you wanted
Yeah.
justice,
All
right?
of a sudden your accounts start getting called in. And I have an instant karma candle that I use for some specific situations. And I get people burning that thing willy nilly. And I'm always telling them, hey, you're invoking someone's karma. That's going to splatter. You're going to invoke your karma as well if you're
Right.
not really dialing down the energy of this to a very specific intent. So look at the difference in having a trained witch who
Exactly.
knows how to
That's my
move that
point.
energy toward, and that's what, like my mama said, I told you that to tell you this, you know,
Yeah. Well.
having somebody who's trained in energy management
Mm-hmm.
and can direct that energy of karma to a specific situation versus let's just invite in the karma it's a
Right.
whole other thing. So
Or maybe, like you said, hey, you know what? I don't want the justice. I just don't want the judge to find me guilty for my traffic ticket. So how can
And
we
you know,
fix that?
that's real viable. I can't afford this right now. I don't want to miss
Right.
work to go to jail.
Yeah.
I'm claustrophobic. Keep me out of jail. That's
Exactly.
different than I
Different.
want justice. You don't want
Yeah.
justice, baby.
Yeah.
You're the one that put those damn things in the glove
Yeah.
compartment.
Justice is
Didn't look
you're
at
gonna,
them.
if you want justice, that judge might come in a bad mood that day.
Right.
But yeah, that's it. Let me ask you, it has been wonderful to speak to you, Katrina. Where can people go to find more information about what you do and your services and everything?
I got a link tree. It's at
Okay.
katrinarasbold.com. So if you want to find me anywhere, my
You know what? I gotta
Patreon's
look.
there,
You're the
my
second person
Substack's
that tells
there.
me about Linktree.
Just katrinarasbold.com. Now my son told me about it. He's the one that
Okay.
keeps me honest. He's in his 40s and he's really Mr. Internet. And so he's the one that
Okay.
says, Mom, websites are not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I
You
know.
need a link tree. So he redid my website and got it all set up and everything. So katrinarasbold.com has me anywhere on the internet that you want to find me.
That's fantastic. So I know you said you've written a lot of books. Are you working on anything right now?
Oh, I just finished an 8-book fictional series that I started in 2013. 10
I,
years.
10 years.
I was giving birth for 10 years straight. And so it was 8 books and it's post-Arthurian fiction.
Okay.
And I was really excited to get this finished because I thought I was going to straight out George R.R. Martin this shit and die before it
Yeah.
was done.
Uh-huh.
And I had my kids all wired up. Like, if I die, this is what happens to this character. This is what happens to this
Yeah,
character.
it's like
You got to finish it because I might not finish
right,
it.
right, right.
But as soon as I retired in 2022, October 2022, I was able to get 3 of the last 3 books done. Just bam, bam, bam. I'm so proud of this series. And that's the Seven Sisters of Avalon series. And
Okay.
so I got that finished. That was like being constipated for 10 years and finally getting everything
I feel
all cleared
wonderful now.
out.
All right.
So I'm not working on a book at the moment. I'm doing a
Now it
lot of
sounds like, man, you after 10
I
years,
did 42. I mean, I was trying to figure out if I've really got anything else to say or not.
like I need a
But
break. Yeah.
yeah, I've said enough. But I did 42 books and I'm working on blog posts now that I do on my Substack.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a magazine periodical called Green Egg that I write for or starting to write for sometimes. And
Okay.
so I'm just taking it easy. You know, I quit
Yeah.
vending, which was huge. Vending
Okay.
at festivals was a huge part of my life. I
Right.
closed the store, which was huge. So it's really a drawdown. And that's the
Yeah.
writing has sort of drawn down away from writing books to writing
Right.
blog posts.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I am right now. But again, a lot of client work. I have a lot of interaction with them by
Yep.
email and
Sure.
remote work. So that's mostly what I do day in and day out. I live in a beautiful mountain area. So I just look out my window at this huge valley in front of me and feel the wind blow through the house. And it's just
Isn't it wonderful?
it's wonderful. I didn't know it would be this good. I didn't know what to want.
Yeah, I know. I know. And as long as I got an internet signal, it's all good.
Yeah, mine's shit. Because of the mountains. I mean, because of the mountains, we have the worst internet ever. I'm grateful we could even do this
No, let
because
me. I've spoken to people sometimes who will tell me. I mean, if anything, I'll call them on the phone or anything, but they'll tell me, "Hey, my internet signal is. It can
yeah,
come and go." So, absolutely, it has been great to speak to you. I really enjoyed it so
I'm
much.
glad I enjoyed it too.
Okay, so again, and I hope we'll talk soon again. Okay,
Let's do.
take care.
Take care.
Bye bye. Wow. Let me tell you something. I hope you guys enjoyed it because I really enjoyed it. I love her sense of humor. That's why I was laughing through this whole interview. I was laughing. I was laughing because to me it was like I love her sense of humor. I hate to say it, and I know there's people out there that are gonna go. People as they get older, you get the wrong the reputation. Oh, that you get older and you become like all like crabby. And believe it or not, as you get older, depending on the personality, but a lot of times it's your sense of humor becomes drier. And like she said, you call things by what they are, like what it is, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get offended or you're going to like, whatever, you just say it. And to me, I like that. I really like that. But sometimes, especially nowadays, everybody's got to pick and choose their words. Don't say that or don't curse or, oh, it's like, come on, come on. Sometimes it's like, just talk, blurt it out, that kind of deal. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, which we had when I asked her to come and be on the show, was, and I've mentioned this before, with all the technology that we have, all right, it's, you know, whether it's, the computer, um, GPS, everything. I think that we kind of like lose sight that there's, whether you want to look at the magical, religious, spiritual levels in our lives, where some of those laws don't apply in that. They don't. They really don't. And I'll give you an example. Let's say nowadays you'll see any type of court battle, whether it's a murder or an assault or anything like that. And you'll see basically people get convicted, or let's say non-convicted, depending. As a matter of fact, even if the prosecutor will go forward and even prosecute this person based on how good is the evidence that they have. All right. How good is the evidence that they have, whether they'll even prosecute the person. Okay. Or um, basically, or what they say, the doubt, there's a doubt, or if the evidence that's brought forward, even if it goes to, through the court process, is it good enough? You know. And in other words, my point being, I'm going to say, I know there's going to be people that say, yes, I know that there's guilty people that have gone to jail, but especially now with DNA, it helps a lot. But I'm going to go to the point of where people that have done something wrong don't get prosecuted, or they're let off because the evidence, whatever, wasn't enough to get them convicted or whatever. So basically, it's like justice, but not justice. But in the magical, spiritual, metaphysical world, whatever, however you want to apply it, that's not the way it works. In other words, as she was pointing out, when you ask for justice, justice, you might be really careful, because justice, might not be, justice doesn't know about your BS, version of what happened. Justice is justice. In other words, there's no manipulation of what was done or not done, or said or not said, or the intentions, et cetera, et cetera. What I mean by intention is that sometimes bad things happen, or people do bad things, but that wasn't their intention. An accident, something happens, versus the person that intentionally goes out to do harm, whatever it might be, whether it's with the mouth, with action, whatever. So, in other words, you could go to the courts, which is technology, all of this, and you might get off. But in the magical world, those rules don't apply. Oh, that nobody could produce evidence, or produce a video of you doing or not doing this or whatever. Sometimes that doesn't work. It's two different things. And this is what why I was asking her about that, because, especially when you see these shows like the CSI Effect, which, by the way, it's like, um, you know, the CSI stuff, they make it look like ting, it's done. But anyway, as far as the timeline of how fast those things get done, we all kind of think that that's the way it is. Everything is, um, if it's found, let's say, like when you were talking evidence or confirmation or anything like that, that's really what counts. And there's a world that parallels that, where it doesn't. It doesn't. All right. And I think that it's that realm where, if you want to call it prayers, or what she does when she says she burns a candle for a certain outcome, which are the ones that defy this linear world that we live in, where if it can't be measured or recorded or produced or reproduced or witnessed, then hey, in that world, that doesn't matter sometimes. All right. Because it's what's done there is, and in a way, I understand that maybe that's why it's attractive to some people, because it makes you think, well, I can make things happen that normally would be impossible. Like what she was saying, This person that's not interested in me or doesn't want to be with me, somehow in, the world that we live in, it's not going to happen. But if I get somebody to do the spell work for me, I can get this person to love me or to come back to me or whatever. It's, in other words, it flows both ways. It's, and sometimes, like she was saying, especially when it's, let's say, let's use that example of the thing where somebody doesn't want to be with somebody else, and maybe they started and then one person's like, you're not the person for me, or maybe you want something, whatever. One person goes south and the other one's like, nah, you got to be mine. And she could do something, and maybe all it's going to result is like, man, we'll get together because I want to have sex, for lack of a better word. I'm horny, and then I don't want to ever see you again. And this person's like, hey. And in other words, they want to bend things to their will. All right. And in that, I'm going to use the word metaphysical. That metaphysical world. Yes, and the thing is, I know she told me she doesn't do dark magic as far as hurting people or anything like that. But I've seen, as a matter of fact, I know of where people have paid, like what she was talking about, that killing people or putting a hex on them so that they have an accident. I've heard of people paying thousands of dollars for that work. And by the way, they do find people that will take the money and do stuff that's pretty dark. All right. In other words, in this world of technology, wishing something on somebody doesn't do shit. In a magical or spiritual or metaphysical world, it does. And I don't know if you heard what she said about how sometimes people get hexed or cursed or negatively affected, even by strangers. And what I mean by that is, sometimes when people know you or they have love, hate, there's a personal relationship, revenge, even among business people. It doesn't even have to be love. There's a dynamic there. But she's talking about where you could be around a stranger, somebody that really doesn't even know your name, who you are, and if they're having a bad day, or what she said, this person's schizophrenic and thinks that, hey, you cut me off with your shopping cart and whatever. All of a sudden, in other words, normally in the regular world, that doesn't really matter, but you could get some type of negative effect from this person. All right. Same thing what we talked about from a neighbor. Or what she said, the when that guy said about that this girl was stalking him. She's all over the place, making his life impossible. But he says, I can't get an injunction, against her because technically she hasn't done anything wrong. She hasn't hurt me, right? And what is he doing? He's coming to her to do the work that in linear technology world wouldn't work, because you just can't sit there and say, oh, I wish this person would leave me. It's like, all right, it's not working, so I'm going to go to down the magic avenue. And by the way, some people think of, you know magic, prayers in a way are magic, or if you want to say magic is like prayers, how's that? Whichever way you want to, from what end of the prism you want to look at it. All right. It's the belief, the intent, the will, the desire. And I want to say it even negatively, sometimes when people become obsessive, that sometimes will have things manifest a certain way. All right. And like I said, there's sometimes that things do boomerang on you, or like she pointed out, you want justice and then you get justice, not just the justice you were thinking of. So yeah, I do think that despite all our advances in technology and where everything can be measured, that part of our existence is still out there. It's still just as how can I say it? It's still just as powerful. And I think that even these people that dabble, or like she said, TikTok witches that want to, hey, I'm just doing it for I'm doing it, but really it's more about getting clicks or whatever. You know what? It will only take them so far. Um, versus the person that, how can I say, believes in it and respects it and understands what good or bad can come of it. All right. Because when you understand something along those lines, you realize the positive and the negative, like in all things, what can come of it depending on your intent and what you want. That's why, I'm sure you've heard about the karma thing, like, especially when it's let's say in a situation where you're wishing something negative on somebody when it's undeserved. When I told her that there's a thin line between love and hate, and let's say somebody that you had this romance with or marriage or whatever, that's it, it's over, but they don't want to have anything more to do with you. But that's really all they're guilty of. Okay. Or let's go down the further. They were unfaithful to you and your relationship ended. And then you have this one person who wishes them dead. I loved you, but now I'm so mad at you that I hate you and I want to wish you dead. Let's face it, guys. Somebody doesn't want to be with you, or even if they were unfaithful to you, that person still doesn't deserve to be to be killed, to die. Like, hey, I hope whatever it is that you're somehow or other you're wishing that this would be the outcome for this person. That still doesn't justify it. That's why I'm saying that sometimes you have to be really careful about what you want. That saying, be careful what you wish for because you might just get it. And sometimes a lot of people, they put so much effort into that wish process that when they get it, it's not exactly how they wanted it. And it's because, what's that saying about revenge is what was it, a meal or a plate best served cold? Because when you're hot and you're mad, you ask for things that maybe if you were cooler, you'd be like, I'm mad, but that person doesn't deserve to die because they don't want to be with me, or because that person, was having an affair behind my back and cheated on me. Yeah, they're dirtbags. But whereas when you're hot under the collar, you could, you want a piano to fall on their head kind of deal. Um, yeah. And sometimes people don't realize that you can wish something hard enough, uh, or like she says that they come to her, that it's like, even if she would do it, if it was something dark like that, that it's like, do you really want that? That's like, I think to be honest with you, I think I would only reserve that if somebody ever did something to one of my kids. That's it. That's when the gloves come off. It's like that's where I would be like, yeah, you know what, whatever. I'll deal with the karma when I get it, if it ever comes my way. But outside of that, there's and I hate to say it, but I think also a lot of people, just like when you see with churches and religions and spiritual practices of different denominations, or even magic, that people take advantage of other people, um, of course, taking money from them and promising what's undeliverable, or what's, um, how can I say it? It's like you're this person is pretending to be spiritually deep or close to the source God, whatever, and they're everything but. And then they take advantage of desperate people, or people that have mental illness or behavior disorder, or they're just like, hey, I'm not going to take this anymore kind of deal, that kind of like ultimatum that they'll go to anybody, and if this person asks them to do this or do that and it's going to cost you, they'll pay it. And yeah, there's a lot of that out there. But anyway, guys, I hope you really liked this interview with Katrina. Please check out her website. Also, in Linktree, I'm going to have a link to her website on the credits of the show, because that is the one positive thing about technology, is that, guess what? You can connect with her online. So until next time, don't forget to subscribe to me on my Substack newsletter. All right. mppellicer.com, miamighostchronicles.com. Again, links to everything, everywhere, all at once. Till next time, I've got a lot of interesting guests, and I hope to see you. Take care. Bye-bye.